This is the Fill Notes from The Proving, short reflections from inside the process of building a life that's earned, not perfected, earned. The first step is rarely dramatic. There's no music, no audience, no moment where the world pauses and acknowledges that something important is happening. Instead, you wake up. You lace up your shoes, you go outside, because the proving doesn't happen in the announcement, it happens in the actions. August 4th, 2024. That was the day. My first run, 3.5 miles around a lake. It was quiet, beautiful, peaceful, but the most interesting part wasn't the run itself. It was the moment just before it. Because I remember thinking, I was curious to see who was going to show up for this run. Would it be the perfectionist, the one who always needed to dominate the run? Would it be the optimizer, the one who always tries to beat the app and outperform the plan? Or would it be the person who gets discouraged if the run feels slow? Or just someone else, someone who just got there to run? I genuinely didn't know. The run plan was simple. Conversational pace, 3.5 miles, slow and steady, nothing heroic. And that actually was harder than I expected because there were moments where I just wanted to accelerate, especially around the turns, and especially when I felt like I had more energy. But the good part of the app was that the coach, as you were getting in and out of the pace, it would remind you, slow down, speed up, stay controlled. And that was kind of funny to me because for most of my life, I hated the idea of constraints, or especially someone giving me an expectation or an idea that deviated from the formula. I always believed that if you could accelerate, you should accelerate. If you could reach terminal velocity, why wouldn't you? But here I was being restrained and trying to keep within the plan that I didn't create for myself, but the app did. Recognizing that this wasn't about winning today. It was really about finishing something or really starting something bigger than myself. And for some reason, I trusted the coach. And honestly, that kind of surprised me. Unlike other things in the past, the run itself wasn't really dramatic, but it was different. It was August, so it was certainly hot and humid. And I remember sweating a lot. And for some reason, it was kind of symbolic and kind of nice to some degree. It felt like I was sweating out the old version of myself. All the toxins of the formula, all the pressure, all the optimization, kind of a surrendering sweat, if you will. And every breath felt like I was breathing in something new. Certainly not the new identity yet, maybe a new direction. And when I finally reached 3.5 miles and walked back to my car, I realized something simple. And I was kind of proud, gave me a little bit of a smile, if you will, that I just taken the first step. 3.5 miles might not sound like a lot, but for many people, it's a huge accomplishment. And for me, it meant something else. It meant I'd done something that was finally mine, not for work, not for validation, not for the formula, just mine. There's another small detail I remember, the music. Up until that point, when I worked out, it was always kind of the same thing. EDM, loud, fast, aggressive. Put it this way, if the speakers weren't blasting and if it didn't sound like two robots were screaming at each other, I probably wasn't listening to it. And that day was no different. The run was powered by house music and the loudest, most screeching dubstep you can possibly imagine. But something interesting happened later on. Running eventually became a place to think, a place where sometimes I ran with no music at all, just silence, just thoughts. But that first run was powered by noise because the noise was still familiar and silence would come later. And just to be really clear about that first run did not feel like a victory. It just felt like proof that I had started, I guess proof that I could follow through, and just proof that something different in my life was finally possible. I look back on August 4th with such kind eyes because that day I didn't become a runner. I just became someone who ran. And sometimes that's totally fine and completely enough because the proven doesn't happen in one moment. It happens step by step, run by run, decision by decision. And that first run was just the beginning for me.